Hi, Bill. Good morning. Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Enrique, and good morning, Kain.
Good
Hi.
morning.
Morning.
Hi,
Hi, everyone. I think we can start. Good. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time. We realize that your days are busy. That you're all, my goodness, that's a big echo. I think you ought to turn yourself on mute, Bill, as well.
All right.
Yes, terrific. Thank you. So we really appreciate that you're all really taking the time out today. We realize you're all busy. Everybody's been on too many Zooms, too many webinars. So we do appreciate that you're here with us today. And there's Kain as well. Great. So we're all here. Today we've got, I think, a really interesting webinar for you. We're going to talk about localized websites, e-commerce, what that means, how you can increase your presence online, your user experience, and that sort of moving that towards growing your top line, your sales, your prospective buyers, moving them along the buyer's journey. Where we're really, really delighted to have Kain with us here to talk about the AACCGP. Have I got the words right? Anyway, we'll get Kain on that one. William Pierce is here as well to talk about the SBDCs. I think I got that one right as well, SBDCs and AACCGP. And then I'm joined by Enrique Rubio, my colleague. So let's get started then. I can just see the last of you logging on. And while you're logging on, I'm going to do some very quick introductions with a bit more to say here. So my colleague Enrique Rubio at IBT Online is based in Illinois and has a lot of experience in various sectors, but also on the online world, and is there to help you throughout. Kain is President and CEO of the Asian American Chamber of Commerce of Greater Philadelphia. But when I look at what she's doing, when I look at the AACCGP, it is really, really deep. It is an amazing organization, and I'll let Kain go through that a bit more. I just find that the stretch, I mean, when you say Greater Philadelphia, it really stretches out that way. Bill Pierce is here, a seasoned, well-experienced international trade specialist, knows about NASBITE, knows about all the different kinds of areas for the international side, and works with the SBDC as well as that, and a really tremendous resource to rely on. Myself, my name is Susanna, and I'm Chief Content Officer for a company called IBT Online. A quick word just on IBT Online, who we are as a company. We've been around for a while. We are celebrating our 20th year this year, so we've been around for a while. And we are 100% focused on online tools, websites, online marketing, whatever that is, on online tools for companies. So we're companies, online tools. And we have developed something called the Online Global Programs, which help companies go internationally and reach out beyond their small borders, their immediate borders. We're very proud to have won the President's E Award last year, which we're very chuffed about, and so on. And we have lots of resources that are free. If you go to our website, there's lots of like videos, website webinars, ebooks, white papers, all that stuff for free for companies who are looking to grow their top line. So enough about us then. Today's agenda. We're going to start off with Kain talking very briefly about the services offered from the AACCGP, about the memberships, about what they're doing, how they're acting. Then Bill's going to talk to us briefly about the Pennsylvania SBDC network. The SBDC network is huge across the United States. I believe there's 16 in Pennsylvania alone, so really a very strong base to network off. And then we're going to get down into sort of these online business development tools. What are they? Why do you need them? Why are they important? What do they give you? And then drill down a little bit further into what is website localization? Why do I need it? How do I do it? What does it entail? Enrique's also going to talk about what is an international buyer persona? How do you localize a journey? What does that mean for my websites, for my marketing? And then an overview sort of the e-commerce landscape. we've left time at the end for takeaways and questions. Please do add your questions into the chat box. We're delighted to have your feedback, questions. Now is an opportunity for you. So we've gathered some experts here. You've taken the time out of your day. Stick your question in, respond. We're here to answer those questions, and we'll be delighted to help in any way we can. If we can't answer the question, we can find someone who can. So without further ado, I'm going to turn right over to Kain, if you're there, Kain, to talk us through the AACCGP.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you all doing? Thank you so much for joining us. And Bill, thank you so much for making this happen. Enrique, Susanna, it's so nice to meet you guys. I really want to talk just very briefly about the Chamber because I want to learn myself about how to localize the online business and how to get a global audience. And the reason why I want to learn is because you'll see in my slides why e-commerce is very important for our community. So I can't click the slides from my end. So Susanna, if you can help me go to the next slide.
I am. I'm just having a little trouble with my mouse. Here we go. I found it. Got it.
We are all having technical difficulties today. There you go. So I do want to talk a little bit about how do I make that screen enlarge it on my end. If you can help me.
I think that the viewers can see it very well.
I got it. So I've always been asked, what is the role of the Chamber? So I thought it would be a little refresher for anyone that wants to know what a Chamber of Commerce does, because it's important to understand that each chamber is extremely unique. And one of the reasons why we are all unique is because of the values that Chamber of Commerces were founded. So the first Chamber of Commerce was founded in 1912, as you can see in the slide, because I don't want to read all of it. And today, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce represent more than 3 million businesses of all sizes. And our Asian American Chamber of Commerce was founded in 2012, March 28. So we are approaching our 10th anniversary. It's very exciting. And it was founded by our current chairman, Nick Shenoy, who has done an incredible job helping hundreds of businesses, hundreds of families find their niche in Greater Philadelphia area. And today we represent over 13,000 small businesses, Asian American owned businesses in Greater Philadelphia area that also covers New Jersey and Delaware. And I'm not sure if you are aware, but 7.8% of Philadelphia's 1.6 million population are Asians. And 11% of Philadelphia's small businesses are Asian owned. So it's one of the fastest growing in the Greater Philadelphia area. And what it means that Philadelphia has 12.1 businesses per 1,000 residents, and Asians place highest rate of business formation with 30 firms per 1,000 Asian residents. And that's according to the census in 2020. And the number is just growing. So the next slide, we will tell you what our chamber does. So of course, when you talk about Asian Chamber of Commerce, people usually think, oh, you do networking, you create people to come and meet. That's not just what we do. These are the main activities that we engage on a day-to-day basis. And currently we are helping actually 8 newcomers to start their businesses. And yesterday, I was just helping a couple that barely spoke English to start an LLC in the Philadelphia area. So it's very exciting. And that is why Chamber of Commerces, especially the small Chamber of Commerces, are very important, because you have, when you talk about Asian community, we have West Asia, East Asia, Southeast Asia, lots of Asian populations that we serve. So when you actually want to serve the Asian community, you are serving completely different, diverse group of cultures, traditions, languages. So it is a great privilege for our chamber to be able to work with all these diverse communities and multicultural communities. And that's why, e-commerce and social media marketing is very important for us. And we work very closely with Bill, who helps us with business strategies, event planning, and especially reach small and grassroots level businesses. Next slide, please. So currently we have 75 business corridors, as you can see. It is pretty large. So for us to cover each and individual business is sometimes very challenging, but we try our best to reach out to them by email, through our newsletters, and also we do door to door. We knock on their doors. We ask them what they need, if even if they're not our members. As soon as we identify someone, oh, this is a newcomer into the Asian community, we want to help them. We want to get to know them. And especially if they're willing to start business, we have all the resources, whatever they may need, especially when it comes to information, how they can utilize it and how to grow their businesses. That's where we try to help. Next slide, please. So you may be interested in who are our members. Our members come from very different backgrounds, but this is the concentration of the type of jobs that most of our members are engaged in. And this also represents the majority of Asian American population in the United States. So many of them, as you can see, are in technical occupations and also in personal care and services. People are familiar with, when you talk about Asian food, right? Restaurants or nail salons, but we have a lot more variety than that. Next slide, please. So our membership is actually wonderful. It's growing. We have a tremendous board that's comprised of executives from corporations to small business owners, solopreneurs that have very different experiences, but that are also very unique and important in helping other businesses, including our partners, African American Chamber of Commerce, Independence Business Alliance that represent LGBTQ+ issues, Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. So we work together and we call ourselves Diverse Chambers Coalition, which is gaining a lot of momentum in helping the city of Philadelphia pass bills that affect businesses tremendously. And as you can see on the slide, the top 10 countries ranked by retail e-commerce sales growth in 2022. You can see that, look at the top 8. Like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 businesses that are in Asia. And we have traders, exporters, importers, businesses that are coming from these countries to United States and especially to Philadelphia area. And just yesterday alone, I met with 2 Filipino businesses that are hoping to expand their e-commerce here. So that's why it is a very timely subject, and I'm so glad that we are doing this seminar, because we have students that are watching, and I know that many of our members are interested in watching this video afterwards, because some of them are working during this time so they cannot attend, but they're very interested in connecting more with Southeast Asia and also learning how to do it. So with that, if you have any question about Asian Chamber, please feel free to contact me, and I look forward to answering your questions at the end of the seminar.
Kind, thank you so much. Let me go to Bill now, where we sort of look a little bit about the SBDC and some of the services offered there.
Well, thank you, Susanna. Thank you, Dr. Zhao, for a great update on the chamber. I'm Bill Pierce. I'm with the Widener University Small Business Development Center. The Small Business Development Centers were established as a resource organization to support the Small Business Administration. The Small Business Administration does a lot of great things in terms of creating opportunities for small businesses, handling regulatory matters, funding, as we all know, during the COVID events, but they don't really provide direct assistance. And so organizations like the Small Business Development Centers were created to provide direct assistance to clients throughout the United States. In Pennsylvania, and I have this in the slide later, there are 16 different SBDCs or small business development centers around the state to support our communities and help. So the idea behind a small business development center or a volunteer organization called SCORE, or another organization that's specific to women-owned businesses, the Women's Opportunity Resource Center, are all resource groups for the Small Business Administration that we're here to help. Most of our services are provided at no charge. Occasionally there are things that people have to pay for, of course, but for the most part, you can reach out to us and our assistance is available to you free of charge. One of the features of the small business development centers are our centers of excellence. These are real hardcore experts in various fields. You'll see 6 of them listed here on the slide, but we have a expert in agriculture in the state of Pennsylvania, digital services, both on the east side of Pennsylvania and on the west side of Pennsylvania. Health and life science is one of the things that we feature at Widener. Latino businesses we support through Widener, tourism and hospitality through Temple University, and we use the growth wheel as a skill set to help business owners grow their businesses, and we have experts in that field throughout the state. Susanna, can you go to the next slide? Okay, very good. All right, so as I said, the coverage is statewide. There's actually over 1,000 small business development centers throughout the United States. There's the website if you want to click on that. It will be part of the slide when the slide deck comes out. But there's 16 SBDCs. They're all based in universities throughout the state. You can see a little Widener down there in the lower corner handling Delaware County and the southern part of Philadelphia County. But Kutztown handling Chester County, and Lehigh handling Montgomery, Bucks, Northampton counties. So in the immediate area, we have 4 different Temple covering Philadelphia County, the rest of Philadelphia County. So you have 4 major universities supplying resources to our small businesses throughout this area. So we're here to help. And we welcome anybody who wants to come in. Again, you can click on either websites and that will take you to the Small Business Development Center that's here to help, or certainly you could reach out to me anytime and we'll get you connected with the right people to assist your small business.
Bill, thank you so much. Before we go on, I wanted to launch a quick poll. I just wanted to make sure, are we sort of, have you already actually, are you already members? Are you guys already looking? Have you already taken contact and benefited from any of the services offered by the SBDC or the AACCGP? I will say this: you are a good clicker audience. Thank you so much for responding so quickly on that one. And it's interesting. I would say, yeah, over half of you have already taken some of the services, but there's still a quarter which would appreciate more information and would appreciate Bill and kind of other reaching out or whatever. I'm going to close that poll but I wanted to thank you all for voting so much. That's great. I'm going to close that poll and then go on to our next slide. But before I do, I know I said we'd have questions at the end. There's quite an interesting one that I wanted to ask Kine as well, that's just come in, which is kind of pertinent for just now, if that's all right with you, Kine? If you could hop back on.
Absolutely. I realized that I lost the visual. I am so sorry. I don't know how to do it.
Doesn't matter.
I apologize to the audience in advance because we were trying this beforehand and I was having technical difficulties. So go ahead, Susan. I'm sorry. What was the question again?
Well, the question is just, you talked in the beginning that you don't just do networking events. Do you do specific networking events for non-Asian companies who want to connect to the Asian community?
Absolutely. So one of the biggest events we host for non-Asian businesses to meet with Asian businesses is our annual award Banquet, which we hold every year in October. We have more than 300 people in attendance. So you get to meet not just our board and executive committee members, but you get to see a wide range of partners that we partner with, from the city of Philadelphia to other Asian businesses that are currently in our membership. So I highly encourage you to subscribe to our newsletter, because we announce the date of the banquet. It sells out very quickly. The tickets are very popular. And we also have other events. For example, there's one event coming up in May that is also a networking event where you get to meet with Asian businesses. But, like I said, if you subscribe to our newsletter, you will be informed of these webinars, seminars, and networking opportunities. Very frequently, we host them.
Thank you very much. There's some more questions that have come in. I'm going to save them for the end. We wanted to talk also just at the top level, why we think Pennsylvania companies need online business development tools. And I guess from our point of view, I mean, we're a private company. What we do is online business development tools. And so we're very committed to that. But I guess the point we wanted to make is the last 2 years have been tough for many, many people, for lots of businesses, but they have sure turbocharged some existing trends. Now, all of these trends were there pre-pandemic. Green, working from anywhere, working from home, like I am. E-commerce, so, a very well-established phenomenon. The last 2 years has, kaleidoscoped this whole thing. These trends, and accelerated them, turbocharged them. We've reached e-commerce levels that most analysts thought would take us 10 years. We've done them in 2 years. So the shifts have been pretty dramatic. And we believe very strongly in every data point that we see sees that these trends are continuing and are here to stay. Whether it's data privacy, the use of AI, working from home or from anywhere, or hybrid, and e-commerce. So if you thought the internet was ubiquitous everywhere before the pandemic, it really has seeped into every aspect of life, whether one likes it or not. And I don't want to go into too many stats, it's boring, but I just think it's worth having a look at the very top line. So this dates from January 2022. Nearly 5 billion people out of, what are we, 7.5 billion people. So 5 out of 7.5 are online. And that stat is daily online. So if you use the internet every day, nearly 5 billion people use the internet every day. And they spend an average of nearly 7 hours on the internet every day. So that's worth remembering. That's an amazing number. And out of that 4.95, 4.62 billion are using social media for an average of 2.5 hours a day. So this isn't just kids playing on Facebook or on telegramming their friends. These are businesses using LinkedIn, using social media for marketing. These are businesses using things to find suppliers, to find new partners, to buy things, to sell things. And as a small business, as a small mid-sized business, this is very good news for you. You can say, this means I know where my prospective buyers are. They're online. I know how to reach them, social media. So no matter what size you are, no matter what field or application you are, you know where your buyers are. You know where your sellers are. You know where your prospective buyers are. They're online, and you know how to reach them. So when we talk about these online tools, that sounds kind of, it can be a bit frightening. Like, what are these tools? So let's bring it down to its basics. Online business development tools basically come in 2 forms, and they go hand in glove. Websites, and you can have big ones, small ones, e-commerce enabled, flat ones, brochure ones, B2B, B2C, B2 government, all kinds. But they're basically websites. And then you have online marketing. search engine marketing, organic search engine marketing, social media marketing. So those are the kind of marketing, and those marketing things can be very, very expensive, high budget, or you can spend a lot of time doing organic, and that's not paid, but it's just about feed us. So those are the two levers that you have with online business development tools in a nutshell. And when we look at these things, we, as I said, you can have all different kinds of websites, but whether it's websites or e-commerce or the online marketing side of it, they all aim for one thing, which is increasing your top line. Websites and online marketing is all about growing your top line, your sales. They don't necessarily interact in the rest of your P&L. They can, but basically what they're hitting at is your top line. They're there to grow your brand. They're there to grow your prospects, your sales, your business. So that's what you have to think about when you're looking at your website. So when we ask the simple question, so why do Pennsylvania companies need these online business development tools? The simple answer is the world is online. Remember that number, nearly 5 billion, nearly 7 hours a day. So everybody's online. And the most effective way to reach them are what we call localized websites and online marketing. And what are localized websites? Well, let me turn to my colleague Enrique to dive down into that a bit. Enrique?
Thank you, Susanna, and good morning and good afternoon to everyone that is on the webinar. I am based out of Chicago, but I have many years in Philadelphia because I am a Temple University alumni. So Philadelphia is very close to my heart. So I'm very happy to be here with you all. So to get started, one of the top questions we receive here at IBT Online is, why can't I just use my US website to go global? If you have a website for your company and you want to reach some prospects, say in a different target market, in an international market, you might think, let me just add a couple of foreign language pages in Spanish, in German, and surely that search will do the rest. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Search engines, and here I've taken the global leader Google, but the same applies to others like Yandex, Bing, Baidu, and even these days YouTube, Amazon, TikTok, Facebook. They're all search engines and they're all searcher centric. Google itself has 192 country and regional specific search engines. So if you just take your US website and assume that your website is going to be found on German Google, which is the google.de URL, that's not the case. You're pretty much invisible because your website, your US website is saying, that it's targeting the US market. It's not in the local language in Germany, which is German. If you sell something that has units of measurement and it's all based on the imperial measurement that we utilize in the US, and the people in Germany use metric, they're not going to understand the unit of measurement, so they're not really going to understand your company or your products. So it's very important that you localize your website so that the people that you're trying to target are able to understand what you're trying to achieve in their target market. So what you can do is think of the different country-specific Googles as very unique localized search engines. And we're going to go into a little detail and give you a great example in the next slide. So here we did a quick little Google search on squeakless dog toys. We did the search based out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, because this is where we're speaking to you from. And then we had Susanna do the same search over in the UK. So here we're looking at two different Googles. We're looking at google.com in the United States, and we're looking at google.co.uk. And you can see right away that there are different search results. So here in the United States, we see the most popular search results being chewy.com, petco.com, chewy.com. And over in the UK, we see barksandbunnies.co.uk, timeforpaws.co.uk. So clearly two different search results based on the most relevant links to the target audience. So people in the UK are not going to see what is most relevant to the US market and vice versa. So logically, Google provided the results that are most relevant to each users. So it's the same search, the same language, different Google search engines gave us different results for each with relevant content for each user. Next slide. Another thing to keep in mind with localizing is keyword optimization. You also need to understand your buyer persona and their language to be relevant. In this example, we're taking the word car in Spanish in two ways. So we have auto and we have coche. If you're a company that sells parts or accessories for cars in the Mexican market, you need to make sure that you're using the proper words that are utilized in that market. So for example, in Mexico, using auto in your translation instead of coche, because only 27% of Mexicans utilize coche instead of the most popular form of this word being auto. But on the other hand, if you're trying to sell into Spain, you definitely need to use coche because that's the most commonly used word in Spain. So that's why you have to be very careful on what keywords you're utilizing in the different markets. And there are multiple examples of this across the board in the different target markets and the different languages. So keep in mind, same search engine, same language, but different keywords, different Google ad campaigns to target different people and different audiences. As we move on to the next slide, websites and online marketing equals customer-centric equal localization. So keep in mind, translation and keyword research is only one aspect of having a localized website. In order for search engines to find you within the algorithm, you need to make sure that it's easy as possible for it to realize that your website is for that specific target market. For example, Google has a search index of hundreds of billions of pages that it needs to comb through to figure out what is most relevant to that searcher. To make it easier on Google, you need to make sure that your website and marketing will be found in the algorithm. So this includes things like hosting within the target market, registering domain names, making sure that it's compliant to the standards and among other factors of those target markets. So here we have a nice list of exactly what is involved with creating a best practice, optimally localized business development website in order to be found to grow your export sales, brand, and business in your target markets. On the next slide, we're going to take a look at what it looks like to have a successful localized website and what it means for it to work. So here we have a website that is hosted in Mexico on a .mx URL. We have SEO for that market in Spanish. So you can see from the results for 1 month on this B2B website shows that the majority of the traffic is coming from Mexico at 87%. But not only that, we see that 98% of the traffic is coming from Mexico, Chile, and Colombia combined, showing you that Google knows that this website is mainly relevant for the Mexican market and it's barely relevant for the neighboring Spanish-speaking countries. The image on the right-hand side shows the map of Mexico, and it shows another example of how you can even get more specific and target specific areas, cities, and neighborhoods within Mexico. And the reason why this happens is because of how the Google search engine algorithm works. If it's not relevant to the market, it's not going to be found, plain and simple. So we're going to take, in the next slide, we're going to take a little bit of a deeper dive on the international buyer and their localized journey and why localization is important. So at the end of the day, localization equals trust. And the reason why localization works is because it builds trust with your buyers. How can a buyer in a foreign market trust your company if it cannot even understand you because you're not communicating in the local language and you're not providing relevant content or imagery or resources that make sense for that particular market? Our online global programs features a robust 10-point roadmap inclusive of a comprehensive buyer persona profiling and buyer journey mapping to build trust in your top foreign market. So we created this roadmap for our corporate clients to utilize to ensure that they're being found and understood in all their target markets. Next slide. Now we're going to take a little bit of a deeper look at the international buyer personas and how other companies do this and what is considered best practice. So it's important to know how your international buyer persona can differ from your domestic persona. So you have to ask yourself a couple of questions. Are there multiple personas for my export markets? Are you trying to contact, end users in a market, or are you trying to contact the VP of sales or retailers? What is the calls to action for your website in your target markets? You also have to ask yourself, how do they find me? What do they care about? Are they more interested in learning how to use your product, or do they just want to know where to buy your product? What retail shops can they go to find your product in their local market? We like to utilize an example by L'Oreal, who's frequently cited for how spot on they are for their international marketing and how detailed they are. So for L'Oreal USA, which is the picture that is on the right-hand side, they have an image of women on the top floor showing that they're empowered, in charge, and diverse. And in other markets, such as L'Oreal Mexico, they'll often have marketing materials that are a little bit more relaxed, that feature both men and women in their campaigns. So it's very interesting to see L'Oreal, as they market their products in different markets, see how their marketing campaigns change depending on the environment that they're in. And if you Google L'Oreal Brazil, you'll see different imagery in their marketing campaigns where they'll show, the scenery of Brazil, which is beautiful mountains and landscape and good weather. Not like Chicago, but in Brazil, it's beautiful weather. So they have marketing that paints the picture of the beauty of Brazil so that it makes more sense for their target audience. Next slide. So once you define your buyer persona, then you can figure out their buyer's journey. You can look at the buyer's journey as an active research process. Someone goes leading up to someone purchasing your products. It's the fundamental part of a digital marketing strategy because it's the framework you can use to understand your buyer's need and provide the information they need to reach their goals. If you don't understand your foreign buyer, you're going to have a difficult time selling to them, communicating with them, and reaching them in their market. Every interaction you have with your persona, is very important with your business. You have to keep that in mind because it should be tailored to where they are in their buyer's journey. Every potential buyer is focused on identifying their problem, which is the awareness stage, understanding what options could alleviate their problem, which is consideration, and then they go through the comparing stage, which is when they compare their top choices when they're ready to make a purchase, which is their decision. And remember that your buyer persona can differ across different markets. So like I mentioned before, it might be the owner, president, CEO. In other markets, it may be the VP, director. And then in some markets, there may be several products or services that may appeal more to men than women, or vice versa. It could be age, it could be demographics, region. It all depends on the buyer and the buyer persona. And now I'm going to hand it back over to Susanna, where she's going to walk us through the global e-commerce landscape. Over to you, Susanna.
Thank you so much, Enrique. Before I talk about e-commerce in particular, I just want to launch another poll. Just to ask you if you want to hear more about these website localization, what that means in the detail. We've been very much top level here. Many states, many different organizations have grants available. We're not a state organization, we're a private company, but we can push you towards Bill or Keen to find out more about grants. But if you want to learn more about the localization websites, what does it entail? What CRMs do I use? But how do I get the right keywords? All those things like that, you can let us know. And again, thank you very much for your fast response. You're all very good at clicking the buttons there. But I think, right, I'm going to close that poll and then just talk a bit more about e-commerce and sort of the global aspect of it. And please do keep those questions coming in. There's some very interesting ones from live stream to all kinds of things. Definitely got problems with my mouse here. Here we go. Sorry about that. Okay. Global e-commerce landscape. Any company that sells things via its website is doing e-commerce. So it's when you first think about e-commerce, historically we've thought about, oh, it's a shop for a B2C, business to consumer. Today, it has clearly gone way beyond that, and e-commerce has taken many forms and is across all industry sectors. Typically, what we find is a company that has, let's say a US company that says, right, I've got Maybe I have distributors here, maybe I don't have distributors there. So in that market that I don't have distributors, I want to have an e-commerce enabled website that allows people to buy things through my website. Sometimes it's difficult to have the full functionality of that e-commerce website in that export market. It's not always easy to make sure you have the right payment gateways, delivery gateways, and so on, and tax gateways on your e-commerce website if you've got to international markets. So what you can do is put all the shop area, the shopping functionality of your e-commerce website into your foreign market, but the actual transaction part of it, the cart part, if you like, goes back to your US website for the actual transaction. This means that you can keep control of the important part like cash and payment. And that is a reassuring thing until you get big enough, strong enough in those international markets to go on. So for example, this is an example of a company that's done that. It's very much supporting their existing customers and sometimes even existing distributors in some markets, but the actual functionality of the cart button goes back to the US website. So that's one aspect that you could look at. Other kinds of companies, and this is a particular very, very high-tech engineering bio company, they might have a distributor in those markets. And again, the distributor in a sense is doing part of the e-commerce functionality, but you can still buy that product through, in this case, the distributor on that market. So you can enable your website to have all the functionality. So as a US company, you have in this case, Japanese website, fully e-commerce enabled. Well, not fully e-commerce enabled, e-commerce enabled. You can see all the products, you know, the pricing, everything how it is. But the fulfillment of that can often be by a third party, in this case, a distributor. But a fulfillment can also be coming from a 3PL, like a logistics partner, or even sometimes from Amazon stores. So remember that one of the scenarios you could do is also to say, right, I'm going to have an e-commerce website and someone else is going to be doing the fulfillment part of it, which is a handy way if you're going to go through export markets. Another example I just wanted to give you was if you're going to go for a full e-commerce experience, then you need everything on your website. You need the full tech stack. So you're going to have a robust tech stack, a robust support system, and make sure that you've got everything all together there. The currencies have to be the right, that means also managing your exchange controls and exchange fluctuations. The logistics have to be absolutely perfect. And I've chosen this example of VaporPin because it's in a particularly challenging market of Brazil. That's a one that has a lot of cumbersome bureaucracy to it as well. So that's a third choice, just to show you where you're really taking full charge of your e-commerce website. So I just wanted to give you a very brief overview as well. I kind of talked earlier a bit about sort of, you know, the growth of Southeast Asia and Asia in general for e-commerce. But if you look at B2C e-commerce across the world, it is now over 4 billion, and that's really taking it down to absolutely minimum of definition of e-commerce for that in across the world. And these are some very large numbers across. So you can see the big markets, the US at 861 billion, but look at China, over 1 trillion. And I've just noticed a bad typo. That should say 4 trillion, not billion, on the B2C global e-commerce, by the way. Japan, 178 billion. The UK, 130 billion. You know, and then if you tie all of Europe, UK, France, and Germany together, that's actually equivalent more or less to the second largest market. That would be the second largest market equivalent, just slightly over more than the US. And if we look across the world, and again, kind noted in the beginning of the slide deck about how the growth markets were very much in these Asian markets. But if we look in terms of percentage of internet users who are already onboarded with e-commerce, you can see again a lot of the Asian countries headed by Indonesia, but Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia are amongst the top 4. You know, and the world average 77%. So 77% of your internet users the average per country are already on the e-commerce. So e-commerce is not something that you have a real choice with anymore. Consumers and businesses expect to be able to buy online these days. And if you're not selling online, your competitors are. We talked a lot about B2C just now, and that's typically the thing that goes into one's head. B2C is actually a fraction of the size of the B2B market. At least this time I've got the trillions right, not billions. So we talked about sort of, 4 trillion for the B2C market, 22 trillion for the B2B market. So again, the business to business side is even more entrenched in terms of e-commerce than B2C. Again, if you're not already doing it, know that your prospective buyer has choices. One of the things as well with B2B e-commerce, B2B companies sometimes forget about social media. But it is a growing, as I said in the beginning, with websites and online marketing, it is hand in glove. They go together. And social media channels, for B2B research are really growing a lot. Companies research their purchases before requesting quotes, before looking at the website. So they will, before asking for your details, before asking for a quote or purchasing, they're researching. Just as, and you know this instinctively, because that's what you do too. Should I buy that new thing? Well, I don't know. Let me check who's offering what. What are my choices? You go into the internet for the information, and you'll see which stores are offering it, who's offering, which brands are offering the best kinds, what's the difference in price. And B2B companies are very much doing the same, especially through the main media channels, YouTube, obviously Facebook, but also WeChat and others. I think what's really interesting if you're a small and medium-sized company as well, is that e-commerce and online marketing really levels the playing field. You can be as prolific and as visible as a multi-billion-dollar company if you've got your strategy and your online marketing correct. Enrique mentioned L'Oreal earlier. You can compete with companies that are valued at billions of dollars if you've got all those channels correct in your local market. Just a quick slide to say sort of the activity. Again, this is very much B2C, but I wanted to point out, 82% or 81.5% of internet users, that's the nearly 5 billion people we looked at, 81.5% have searched online for a product or a service before purchasing. That really shows you e-commerce is here to stay, and it's really becoming not a nice to have anymore, but a must have on these markets. I've left some time for questions, so I see quite a few coming in. We're going to a quick summary just from our point of view, from the IBT point of view. Why we think that you need online business development tools. What are they? I think Enrico was clear when he gave those very top level explanations. We think you need them because the world is online and you need to compete on this global marketplace. All online tools, websites and marketing are always customer centric. So they see the world through the customer's point of view, not necessarily yours. So when you're designing your website, when you're designing your online marketing, when you're designing your e-commerce strategies, you have to think of it from the point of view of your client. What are the keywords they're using? What are the platforms they're using? What is your buyer persona and how does he find you? Not how great is your product. How does your client find your product great? How does your client think you're great? So that's why localized websites are always customer-centric websites. There you go. So that's the best way for us to tell you to get found and to be understood and to do business online. Right, I'm going to go straight into some questions now. Actually, I'm going to start, if it's okay, Kine, with you. It's quite a specific question. I hope this is not too specific. Kine, you used to be an entrepreneur in the beauty industry. What are your thoughts on live stream shopping?
That's a great question.
I'm going to throw you a curveball. I'm sorry with that.
Was it the whole the question?
You used to be an entrepreneur in the beauty industry. What are your thoughts on live stream shopping in the US market, or live stream shopping in general?
That's a great question. I was actually invited to be on QVC. It's just that I had no energy. I was raising a 3-year-old boy when I started my tiny little soap and skincare business, and I have been extremely fortunate because we have the support of over 22 countries. We became global very, very quickly, and it was a tremendous experience. And I encourage anyone, if you are keen to make a presentation with authenticity and you have a vision, share it. Live streaming, live sales, especially using social media platform, is very cheap advertising, I would say. It takes all the energy out of you, but it is very effective, and it can hit so many markets at the same time effectively and very quickly. So again, e-commerce is definitely the future, and it's definitely something that we all need to master to get the right audience and the targeted market.
Thank you very much. That's an answer also that resonates with us. We're also doing live streaming at the moment, and it is very, very effective, very laser focused, but whoa, does it take it out of you, as you say. It looks snappy, short, and wonderful, and it's 15 minutes or whatever it is, but woof, takes a lot of energy. So, but thank you very much for that answer. Enrique, perhaps one for you about sort of e-commerce platforms. Not something I discussed in my time. What are your top thoughts on the sort of various e-commerce platforms?
Thank you, Susanna. So for e-commerce, some of the top platforms that people utilize to be able to host an e-commerce website on their website, like the types of software. The most popular two in terms of software would be WooCommerce, which is a plugin on the WordPress platform, and then utilizing separately, the second option would be utilizing Shopify. Both of them have different pros and cons, which is, on WooCommerce, you're able to have multiple payment gateways, be able to have a little bit more customization, versus Shopify's more plug and play. And that's not to say, your only options to accept orders on your website would be via your own back-end software. You can also connect and leverage your third-party platforms such as Amazon, Walmart Marketplace, and other e-commerce marketplaces. So there are solutions to create, a total strategy so that you can leverage your connected as well as third-party platforms to grow your exports through e-commerce.
Thanks, Enrique. And I'm going to address this question perhaps both to Bill and Enrique. There's a question here about grants. Are there grants? Are there any funding available to help any of this e-commerce and also the website localization? And kind of, if you have but perhaps Bill, any response from the SBDC?
Sorry, I was on mute there. Yes, so there are grants available for different things. Not all the grants are in terms of money. Sometimes these are tax abatements or incentives that are offered. But yes, if there's questions about grants and how to receive grants, please get in contact with me at the SBDC and we'll get you set up. We have a resource that does grant work. We don't issue grants, but we have people that stay very connected to the communities. There's always ongoing grants available. There was until very recently a grant in the state of Pennsylvania called the GAP grant, a Global Access Program grant. That is fully funded out, and we're waiting for the administration to renew that grant, which we expect to happen. But there's no money there, or there's no funding there available today, but there will be. And so there's a lot of ways to get money, and companies like Comcast, I hate to do a plug, but they also provide assistance in terms of internet programs that are available and assistance in how to effectively use the internet for e-commerce. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, and more than happy to get everybody connected if you're interested in that.
Enrique, perhaps from our point of view, what are we seeing across companies for that?
Yeah, definitely. So in addition to what Bill just spoke about regarding the GAP program in Pennsylvania, there are also other grants available to certain industries, such as the U.S. agricultural industry. There are export grants available through trade associations, such as in Pennsylvania, the Food Export Association of the Northeast, which provides a 50% cost reimbursement program to those who are promoting U.S. agricultural products around the world. So there are some funding available depending on the sector that you're in that you can possibly tap into that will, of course, make the cost of localizing in new markets a lot more affordable and accessible.
Thanks very much. There's a question in about redesign and e-commerce, and I'm going to paraphrase it. Which is just sort of how often or how important is design in your e-commerce website? And basically, especially for B2C, it is really vital, but also B2B. And it's not so much design. I wouldn't put it in so much design, because design makes one think of colors and nice shapes. Think of it as the user experience. When the user goes onto your website, do they find what they want to find right away? Do they want to continue the journey? Do they want to go deeper into your website, or they turn it off because it's all a mess? And that doesn't have to be necessarily about the color and the branding and the design, what I would call the soft design of it. It has to be with the user experience. And that is absolutely vital in any website today. B2C, obviously, and B2B, very much so too. And with that, I would just add one last thing, B2C especially. E-commerce websites require regular redesign, or at least rethinking. It's like dusting out a shop. You need a spring look. You need something new. You need to keep your website fresh and to the latest trend. That doesn't necessarily mean a huge budget. You can actually just shift it a bit, change some images, change a video, upload it again. Okay, I'm going to throw a bit of a curveball towards Enrique. If you had to have one thing on your marketing website, one thing for marketing on your website, what would it be? And I think what they're thinking about is, would you add more product? Would you add videos? Would you add Facebook, something like that? What is the one thing you'd want to have if you had just one choice? Any thoughts?
At the end of the day, it's all about having content, relevant content in forms of videos, pictures, blogs, and what we're seeing now is one of the common trends is leveraging the power of video. So incorporating video in your marketing campaigns through your social media channels. When you're doing business in a foreign market, you're always having to train the consumers of how to utilize your products, how to purchase your products, and so forth. So great ways to provide that education and show the consumers in the target market of how to enjoy your products or purchase your products. Leveraging the power of video is always a great resource and great way to do it. So leveraging content on your website would be the best bet.
Okay, I totally agree with that. I see lots of heads nodding here. There's quite a specific question about content management systems, CMSs, content management platforms, content management systems. Again, this goes back to Enrique talking about Shopify and WooCommerce. And the question getting also is about website localization and content management systems. We are actually content management system agnostic. We don't care if you're on this. However, that being said, we do actually care. Squarespace, Wix, all those little platforms, they just don't cut it. You can't do Google Analytics on them. You can't do multi-site environments. You can't grow your website on them internationally, or even really do Google Analytics on it. So those are not platforms we would use. We tend to use the big players, either open source like Expression Engine or probably WordPress. But we use a lot. WordPress is also promising to come out with some international plugins. We'll wait and see. but WordPress is probably now robust enough to cover most people's content management systems if they're just looking for the website side of it. And then, as Enrique said, either plug in a WooCommerce or then drift to a Shopify completely. Right, there's a couple of, where we're out of time. There's a couple more questions, but you will get recordings of this webinar. And there's a couple of questions we haven't answered. Marnie, especially, I'm sorry about that. And Pete, we will be responding to you directly via email. Promise. I wanted to thank Bill for organizing, for being here, for being such an amazing resource for Pennsylvania companies. Reach out to him. He's a font of knowledge and always got a smile and will help you. And then Keen, what can I say? Again, always there and championing the Chamber of Commerce for the AACCGP and all of the networking you do and the grassroots that you do is amazing. Enrique, thank you so much. Great colleague to have. And most of all, thank you all, audience, for being here, for taking the time. We really appreciate it. We know how busy you are. And we hope we were helpful. And see you next time. Thank you all so much. Bye-bye. Have a great rest of day.